It is season 4 in MLB 23, which means we have a lot of new content to talk about, go through which cards I think are the best to go for in season 4, whether you are a grinder who is really getting at it from season 3, or maybe you're someone who is catching up who doesn't have many season 3 cards anyway, wants to know which lower overall card you should be going for here in season 4. Let's not waste any time. I've tried to record this video way too much here this last hour. Let's go through and talk about my favorite cards and see which cards are the best. I do want to quickly shout out ShowZone. Check out the link down below. It'll take you to my profile and you'll be able to see all of these tier lists. You'll click them on your own and see which my current ratings are, or just check through all of the rankings. The videos like to talk about the best cards, highlight the general direction or the meta of the game right now, so you know which cards are the best. But check out the list so you have like a good resource you can maybe check back to or scroll through all the content and know which card you should be trying. Because there's a lot of cards in Diamond Dynasty, it's easy to lose track, and I only talk about a few here, so make sure you check those out down below to the ShowZone link, and check out the merch that I have on here. We have Scann merch that I think looks really good, and also get a ShowZone Pro subscription with code SCAN. Both those things could use code SCAN, and it helps support me as a creator. But let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about our set 4 content. Catcher is interesting because we got Jimmy Fox, another beefy boy 99 option that is up to par with Adley Rutschman. Could even be better for some players. I love Jimmy Fox cards. However, if you have been playing set 3, Adley's probably a lock for the season if you have him. The switch hitting, great defense. Like, there's no reason to take him out unless you stink with them. Jimmy Fox is probably going to be best served first or third or DH for people. But I will say, despite that, you should get Jimmy Fox at some point, or at least try him, because I love his cards. And I have him in the best at catcher, because if you were to put together a best season 4 only team, he's the guy at catcher, no doubt. Also, I should mention, the 97s in terms of set 4 are a little weaker in the sense that not many of them are really crazy. We've had great ones like Mike Napoli and Gary Sanchez in previous seasons. This season, you have guys like Kirk, Pudge, and Joe Mauer, who are contact-based. And then you have Captain Mike Napoli and Kevin Parada, who are good for a 95, 97 overall card, but definitely not up to par to be in the S tier amongst the better options. So try one of these guys for sure if you're looking for a current season option when you're catching up. But in terms of really good cards, you're going to go for Jimmy Fox. No doubt about it. First base. Again, Jimmy Fox is probably going to be played here for most people who are really grinding, but I think there are a lot of solid options off the rip with Ryan Howard, Ernie Banks, Jimmy, and Joey Votto, who are good options. Again, you're probably sticking with a Season 3 card as of right now, but if you're going to try anyone, I would definitely recommend Ryan Howard the most. Great power, great versus righties. I really like his swing. If you're catching up over first base, go for one of these guys down below. You know, something like Babe Ruth, his defense is going to stink, but a solid bat. Justin Turner is great all over the infield. And even Bryce Harper and Paul Goldschmidt will be pretty nice. But again, once you really get down here, first base is a really good position for offense. A lot of these guys, their slightly lackluster offense starts to really get noticed here when there's such good options. So I recommend really go for the A tier if you're catching up. Go for the S tier guys, especially like Ryan Howard, Ernie Banks, Jimmy Fox. Looking for like a solid long-term option. Joey Votto's good, but he just kind of stinks for his lefties in terms of the power. So he might be a little bit of a weakness on that side of things. And second base and shortstop aren't too far off. The top few are Crawford, Mookie, and Story. I think the ones people will really grind for are Mookie and Crawford. Mookie is unreal in the middle infield. You know, I don't have him in the best slot because I prefer him in the outfield with an all set 4 team. But most people will get set collections done and choose Mookie, and he will end up being a shortstop second base option for them because there are a lot of really good outfielders. He isn't really necessary out there. So I think the play would be to go for Mookie. But, you know, Brendan Crawford is definitely a great option as well. Great contact, good power. A lot like the 99 Ketel Marte. It's a little slower and a lefty only. For good option to catch up on, highly recommend Justin Turner. And also Tamar Johnson is a great middle infield option with his good contact and a good mix of defense and speed in there as well. He could be pretty fun. In terms of the big boy shortstops, pretty similar mix, except we've got Machado and Ernie Banks now in the fray. Other really good hitters, slightly slower, but they'll have good defense over at short. I think Ernie would be the guy at short in terms of just the best season 4 team, because he's got the primary there, great hitting. But I think shortstop actually could have some play in terms of an early set 4 card for the sweaty folk out there. You know, season 3 didn't have any crazy shortstops if you didn't have Ellie De La Cruz. If you had Ellie, he was the guy. Past that, there are a lot of very good shortstops, and these guys are definitely up to par with those guys. Of course, Mookie Betts would end up being the guy that you want to grind for and get. So if you don't use one of these guys along the way, that's perfectly okay too. In terms of good catch-up guys, again, Tamar Johnson, Justin Turner, and even 97 George Brett could be fun, even though his defense slightly stinks. The contact will play versus both sides. I know a lot of people liked 99 George Brett in the past, so I'd probably recommend those guys. Third base, I have Machado as like the guy over there. You know, best at third base with like max fielding there. Really good splits versus righties. I don't think he'd be a long-term use for a lot of people, but he will be a very fun option for now if you need help over there. But again, set 3 had a lot of great third basemen, so you probably don't need Machado. So if you're someone who is maybe catching up, looking for solid options, you probably go for like George Brett, Turner. Ryan Braun is great in the outfield and third base, or Tamar Johnson. There's like a set of like 5 to 10 97s that I think are really nice offensively. And each position, a lot of them are repeated because they play a few positions. These are good guys to go for who have like over 100 contact basically versus both sides, solid power. And, you know, you might sacrifice a little bit of fielding with them as 97s, but that's worth sacrificing if you hit some nukes with them. The outfield is actually pretty stacked to start. Now, a lot of people are going to try Mookie. Mike Trout is an unreal card, however, very expensive. A lot of people won't get him, especially right away. But Mike Trout is like the prized possession of the season right now. So, obviously, he would play in the outfield. And the thing is, Mookie makes a lot of sense in the infield because once you have set 3 cards mixed with guys like Acuna, and even wild carding maybe something like a Mickey Mantle and then Ken Griffey Jr. and 99 Trout, you can move Mookie to short and second and you wouldn't have any question about that. Having a team of like Ellie, Mookie, Trout, Griffey, and even someone else in the outfield is unreal. Like, you get so many really beefy 99s. It's kind of crazy. So that's why Mookie's nice, because he could also play the infield. But for an all set 4 team, he makes the most sense in the outfield for his mix of defense. Not any crazy good hitting and good defensive outfielders out there to put out there beside him and Mike Trout. Cedric Mullins is solid. A lot of people like his swing, very favorable swing. A little weaker in the attributes slightly. However, Stanton has incredible attributes. Not a lot of people like his tall strike zone. Jim Rice and Drew Jones could be interesting. I don't know how I feel about Jim Rice's swing. And Ricky Henderson has the contact speed and defense, but slightly weaker on power, which is somewhat of a deterrent for people. So I feel like this bunch would be the 3 I would select on an all set 4 team. In terms of someone who's catching up, looking for good options, Eddie Rosario might be the best card in that Team Affinity. And then guys like Bryce Harper, Jason Bay, Ryan Braun, Steve Finley are actually good to play in the outfield with their mix of hitting. But also Tim Sam and Babe Ruth can be played in the outfield. I would suggest DHing them if you have them and you need to use them, because their defense definitely stinks, but they have great hitting where they're worth using. And as you work your way down, you get a little bit of weaker cards. You know, a lot of cards slightly weaker in the attributes you probably don't plan on using in the long run. So you're definitely working towards S and the best tiers here in the outfield. And honestly, again, you're probably sticking with a lot of set 3 cards. The rotation is interesting because Beefy Boy, Corey Kluber, Nolan Ryan could be very nice. Kluber's got some question marks because he doesn't have any active quirks. Nolan Ryan is interesting because, you know, it's better attributes than his previous 99, but also his 99 previously wasn't as good as it could have been. You know, like, how long will this Nolan Ryan really be incredible? Will he be John Donaldson, Randy Johnson level? I guess we'll see. In terms of the other pitchers, though, Greinke and Cliff Lee could be good. And honestly, take advantage of the 97s even if you've been grinding a bit. Randy Johnson, Bob Gibson have the stuff to be great. They're slightly weaker on the attributes on these versions of their cards. And if you plan on using the Tom Henke Captain Boost, I'd definitely recommend them, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But the 97s are great with the boost. They did a good choice of those cards. But the middle tier and all that fall off really quickly. Some duds in Team Affinity like Palmer, 97 Justin Verlander, who don't have the same pitch mixes that are really nice. So like, yeah, the thing that's interesting with Team Affinity is a lot of them get solid with the boost, especially in the A tier, but it's not that many options beyond that. A lot of the cards are kind of bleh in terms of the Team Affinity starting pitchers. However, Team Affinity has great relief pitchers. All the guys in the S and A tier are great Team Affinity options, and we only have 2 really good 99s, Helsley and Gagne. So my suggestion, if you really need reliever help, grind some Team Affinity, get the reliever captains and the reliever cards that are the Team Affinity bosses in a sense. A lot of them are favorable relievers. People love Hoffman, Dibble, Mo, Duran, Batista, and Edwin cards. Now you get a 97 overall that boosts up to a 99 with the Team Affinity captain boost. And you use a bunch of those guys, the lefties and like Brad Hand and Jose Alvarado, and they actually become very viable. A lot of these guys in the S tier are getting max hits and Ks per 9 and have favorable pitch mixes. It's kind of unreal. So if you're struggling in bullpen, I would do the Tom Henke bullpen boost. He isn't that great himself with the boost. He kind of gets evened up with a lot of these guys, but he makes all of these cards better who are favorable relievers. I'd really recommend doing that. And then especially if you pair the Henke boost with a couple starters like Nolan Ryan and maybe other Team Affinity cards like Randy, Sandy, Bob Gibson, then actually could have a very solid pitching staff with that Henke boost. But of course, right now, Gagne and Helsley are like the guys in terms of the bullpen. I think Helsley's great with the fast slider, but he's still a little bit of a question mark for some. And I also sometimes don't pitch well with Gagne cards. So again, not any crazy top tier relievers right now. This is what I would call the best set 4 team. If I had every set 4 card, this is how I would assemble the team. This is where all the best cards in each category come from. I'm assembling the best set 4 only team, and this team actually would look pretty nice. I mean, these are the cards you definitely want to go for, especially in the starting lineup. You're probably sprinkling in a couple of them with your set 3 lineup. So, I mean, seem very fun. I mean, a solid start in terms of the players. It kind of sucks that there's some repetitiveness with Machado, Crawford, Trout, Mookie. And not really much repetitiveness with Mookie. No, there are some players that got second 99s this season that were a little bit questionable in my opinion. But overall, solid mix here to start off season 4. And I'm interested to see where it goes. But I should quickly talk about my God Squad and my own strategy. You might be wondering how I'm going about building the team, which cards I'm going for. In terms of a God Squad, you see my lineup is still set 3. I haven't gotten enough set 4 content to really make any drastic changes, but with monthly award stuff coming out, me eventually getting some Team Affinity grinding, I'll be trying those cards and shuffling out some players as I keep on getting replacements. I mean, some question marks for me are at short, DH, probably first base, and one more outfield spot at least as of right now, but there's just so many options. I'm constantly shuffling up my God Squad. You all know how it goes if you watch the late night Scann videos. And I'm going to test out this pitching staff, pairing them with a lot of Season 3 cards and seeing how that goes. In terms of a set 4 team, if you want to see where I'm at in the grind, it's very early on, so there isn't much viability on this side of things yet. This is the type of team you'd probably be looking at as you're catching up, grinding only current season content using an only set 4 team. And this team could be fun, and with the captain boosts, they are basically viable. But just a lot of question marks on this team. Some players with some lackluster power. If I'm really sweating my butt off, this team isn't really it. But if you're someone who's in Hall of Fame All-Star, who's, you know, just building up the team, this is a viable ranked team just by doing some Team Affinity grinding, which is cool to see with the captain boost that you can actually do that. So yeah, this is the route I would go with catching up on things. And if you're someone who is grinding, probably just trying some really beefy 99s along the way as you get more and more of them. But I appreciate you all watching these tier lists. If you want to watch more of the previous season ones, check those out as well. And I will have a link either up here or down below in the description to the show zone where you can see all of my current lists in case you are watching this later on. And sub to the channel because I'll be posting more of these along with late night Scann videos to help you get better at the game. But I appreciate you all watching. You have a great rest of your day. Let me know which cards you like so far in set 4. And I will see you again on the next one. Bye.